He said that like, oh, that don't
That's
make
not the only
sense.
time I'm
Okay.
asked.
Yeah. You asked that too?
I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way. I can't.
You don't function well. Yeah.
Test,
You'd be
test.
surprised.
All right, we're going to get going. Recognize we're here till 5. If you want to scoot in, you can, but we'll use the mic, so hopefully that'll help people be able to hear. Honored to be in this room with you all. My name is Todd Levasseur. I direct our college's Quality Enhancement Plan, the title of which is Sustainability Literacy as a Bridge to Addressing 21st Century Problems. And therefore I direct our Sustainability Literacy Institute, which is the home of that QEP. And I graduated from the college in 1997. So it's nice to be back in this building now that the remodel's done. This room is beautiful, but it's big. But we'll fill it with some good ideas and conversation today. So I'm going to start with a little intro script, set the context for this discussion, and then I'll introduce all the panelists. Again, please come forward, make yourself comfortable. Phones off, or at least on silence as well. There's a restroom through those doors and another set of doors on the left if you haven't been in the building yet. There are some sign-in sheets going around. I hope you can sign in. I did want to thank our sponsor, co-sponsor for this, the Audubon Society, Jessica Norris, who's here up front. Her information's on the board over there. They have summer internships around science and conservation. If you're interested in this, and Denzel benefited from one of these as well, please email Jessica directly later today. I put in the subject heading, CFC STEM discussion, interested internship, or something like that, so she'll know what it's about, and she'll track you back down. So I did want to thank them for helping bring Toi Massey here today. So the focus of our QEP is sustainability literacy as a bridge to addressing 21st century problems. And so the College of Charleston for this is defining sustainability as the interaction and intersection of social, environmental, and economic systems. This is also called the triple bottom line of sustainability. So social, you also hear the word equity for social, environmental, economic systems. And so literacy, part of that is having the skills and knowledge of these systems, how they interconnect and impact each other, and to enter into them in ways to advocate for a more resilient, just, equitable future for all. Since sustainability literacy is such a big topic, each year we have a CFC Sustain Solves theme of the year. Last year, our discussions were on water issues. This year, our theme is social justice and fair distribution. Next year will be food security. So for students, by the time you go through 4 years at the college, hopefully you realize these are interconnected themes, actually, and they all impact each other, right? And how the social, environmental, economic systems interact around these themes are all connected. So when thinking about this theme of social justice and fair distribution for this year, and how it relates specifically to the School of Sciences and Mathematics, it emerged we should spend some time talking about issues of diversity within STEM fields, which is the purpose of this panel today. I'd like to share some facts from op-eds on diversity in STEM fields in higher education as a way to bring this topic more to life and connect it to the theme. So if you'll sit with me for a few seconds, I'm going to read through some facts on diversity in STEM fields. Danek and Nivette write in Inside Higher Education that we need to, and they have 4 things they summarized. First, look at diversifying faculty who teach STEM content. Second thing we need to do is identify effective interventions that universities can implement to reduce stereotype threat, a phenomenon that occurs when members of a disadvantaged group perform poorly when made aware of negative stereotypes about their group. Third, we need to learn more about how underrepresented students in STEM are accessing high-impact practices, such as internships and undergraduate research, and develop strategies for increasing participation. Again, great opportunity. Please contact Jessica. And lastly, they say we need to identify effective teaching and learning methods that will boost underrepresented undergraduate student performance in required gateway courses. And we'll actually hear about this from one of our panelists. Meanwhile, Megan Umet in Wired writes about 5 numbers that explain why STEM diversity matters to us all. So I'll read those 5 numbers. 1, 8,650,000. That's the estimated size of the STEM workforce in the United States this year. And within this, 40% of engineers are women, with the demographic of those most interested in STEM fields being concentrated among white and Asian men. Figure 2, 84% of working professionals currently in science and engineering jobs in the US are white or Asian males. Number 3, minus 12%. This is the drop since 1991 in the number of computer science degrees by women in the US. while the field is blowing up. 4, $15,900. This is the annual salary gap as of 2013 between male and female professionals in STEM-related jobs, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. And 5th, she writes, plus 40. The percentage difference in the number of U.S. information and technology patents filed by mixed-sex teams compared to all-male teams, meaning all-male teams submit 40% more than mixed-sex teams. Numbers reported by Giron and U.S. News and World Report from the National Science Foundation suggest that in 2013, African Americans comprised only 3.6% of the engineering workforce, Hispanics 6.6%, and women 14.8%. More so, since 2000, underrepresented minorities have earned just 12.9% of all bachelor's degrees in engineering, which doesn't relate as much to CFC because we don't really have engineering degrees here. This is mirrored in Silicon Valley, where in 2014, Google announced only 2% of its workforce is black and only 3% Hispanic. And of course, there was a worldwide walkout of Google just, a week or two ago, right, based on Me Too insights about the culture of male-female relations in Google too. And the numbers are flat. A study in 2015 found that STEM diversity in Fortune 500 companies in 2015 was the same as it was in 2000. So hopefully these numbers provide some context and hopefully give us pause to reflect on why is this happening. However, and here is an economic and social argument, both for diversifying leadership and staff in STEM fields. A report cited in Forbes magazine points out that diversity not only advances team performance, but also improves stockholder value and increases job creation. So diversity adds to success in early stage technology, innovation, and profitability. And environmentally, we need diverse voices and perspectives in STEM fields to help us adapt to climate change, biodiversity loss, ocean acidification, and other 21st century environmental problems. So hopefully these figures provide a snapshot overview of how and why discussion on diversifying STEM fits into the triple bottom line, social, environmental, economic systems. Our CFC sustains theme of social justice and fair distribution this year, and you can find more out about that if you go to sustain.cfc.edu. So I'm now going to introduce our panelists, and then we'll start off the discussion. So I'll start with students, and we'll start at the end with Tatiana Washington, who goes by the nickname Tati. She's a senior biology major with a minor in environmental and sustainability studies. She is an advocate for animal rights and plans to use her studies to attend veterinary school to one day own and run her own farm sanctuary. She's active on campus with many sustainability-related events, along with on-campus jobs at Student Life and campus recreation. In her free time, she enjoys running, playing sports, and gardening. I'll go in order of how they're sitting and how they're written. So Denzel Wright is the next panelist. He's a junior at the College of Charleston, studying urban studies and studio art. He's from Edisto Island, South Carolina, and is an active member of Sister Yard Media in Charleston 40. Lara Brooksbank, originally from Charleston, South Carolina, is a senior computer science major and member of the Honors College. Her research is in early computer science education and women's issues in computer science. Misty Antonacci is a senior majoring in math with a minor in women's and gender studies. She is currently conducting research for a bachelor's essay which will analyze gender bias in STEM majors at the College of Charleston. She is the president and co-founder of the college's Women in STEM Club. And last is Yemi Uruwo, also simply known as Yemi, Adeyemi, who is a senior here at the College of Charleston majoring in biology. Growing up seeing his father, who is an addiction psychiatrist, has influenced Yemi to branch into the STEM field and to choose a STEM major. Following the completion of his undergraduate studies in May 2019, Yemi has an interest in pursuing an MD, PhD. On campus, Yemi is currently the Vice President of United African Students, Public Relations Chair of SCAMP, which we'll learn more about and explain what SCAMP is, and a student ambassador in the Office of Admissions. This past summer, he was granted an opportunity to travel to Philadelphia in order to conduct research with the backing of National Geographic. Yemi's research, a portion of the Anson Street Burials Project, focuses on analyzing genomic diversity in members of the African American community of Charleston, South Carolina. It's a huge honor. So very thankful for all 5 of you and your time today, all leaders on campus. So we'll hear from them, their background in STEM, hear their experience at the college, and then their future goals and barriers to that and things the college can do to help such goals. So that's what we'll hear from them. On this side, and it sort of just shook out that way with how the tables are and how big the room is. Start with Professor Melissa Hughes, received her PhD from Duke University and is a professor in the Department of Biology. Her research focuses on understanding the relationship between signal form and function, which lies at the heart of her research program. Signal function, in terms of the signal's effect on survival and reproductive success, is likely to differ between the individual producing the signal and the individual receiving and responding to it. So research looks at the relationship of these interactions between form and function in animal signals and the conflicting interests of signaler and receiver. And so she teaches this and has published widely on it. So she's going to conclude the panel after the students go. Professor Sophia Agrest is in the mathematics department, where she's a senior instructor. She directs the college's SCAMP program, which is South Carolina Alliance for Minority Participation. SCAMP, really important program on campus I'm just learning about. This is an academic 4-year enrichment program at the college for underrepresented minorities planning to major in astrophysics, astronomy, biochemistry, biology, chemistry, computer information systems, computer science, data science, geology, marine biology, mathematics, meteorology, or physics. And she'll talk some more about that too. And then the program is designed to increase and retain underrepresented minority students in STEM fields through mentoring, really important, counseling, networking, tutoring, and special access to professional and community development opportunities. So make sure to take advantage of those resources. SCAMP is an initiative of the National Science Foundation and is part of the South Carolina division of Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation program. So she grew up in the country of Georgia, in the Caucasus region of Eurasia, majored in mathematics as an undergraduate, received an MS in applied mathematics from the, I'm going to mispronounce this, Abkhazia State University, in 1996. In the fall of 1999, she started her current position in the Department of Mathematics here at the college. And lastly, really excited about this, will be a response from Toi Massey. So we're going to hear the panelists, and then we'll have a response. So this is sort of like a panel at a professional conference, but much more relaxed and informal. And so she's going to tie together the themes and work into national trends in her own research. So I'm going to briefly tell you about Toi, and then I'm done, and we'll actually start. So Toi Massey is a certified Six Sigma Black Belt, the president and CEO of A&M Innovative Solutions, and the founder and executive director of the Jekyll Foundation, both of which are based in Denver, Colorado. With over 24 years of successful senior and executive leadership experience in the federal, aerospace defense, and private sector industries, Toi's involvement with the White House National Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities, Denver My Brother's Keeper Executive Governance Board, State of Colorado MLK Humanitarian Award recipient, keynote speaker at University of California Long Beach Women in Engineering Conference, and other local to Colorado national initiatives, makes her a perfect respondent to this panel. So she's going to talk in response to that. She's passionate about closing the gender and cultural resource gap in STEM disciplines, and founded the Jekyll Foundation for STEM Education in 2010, incorporating art and design as the collaborative thread across the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sophia, who is going to do a video first.
Good afternoon. There has been a concerted effort across the United States to train young students in STEM subjects, which are crucial in preparing them to success and the job of the future. If you look up the word teach in a dictionary, you will find the variations of two completely different concepts. Teach is to mean to show or explain something. Two different concepts. Teach is to show or explain something, and the second definition is teach to cause to know something. Many professors teaching STEM believe in the second definition of teaching, to cause learning to occur, and that definition lies at the heart of what is now called STEM learning-centered teaching. A learner-centered teacher has a dual roles, a role of a gatekeeper, setting and enforcing high standards, and the role of a coach, doing as much as possible to help to all qualified students meet or exceed those standards. I teach South Carolina Alliance for Minority Participation program for 18 years, and I direct this program for 3 years. As mentioned, South Carolina Alliance for Minority Participation program is a 4-year enrichment program at College of Charleston for underrepresented minorities majoring in School of Science and Mathematics. Established in 1992, it is named after Congressman Louis Stokes. LSKM program is one of the oldest and most successful alliances currently existing in the state of South Carolina, with a proven record of success in retention, recruitment, and graduations of underrepresented minority students in the STEM field. One of the key components of the program success is the appropriate mass placement of freshman students and summer bridge program that helps students to achieve the necessary mathematical skills to obtain STEM degrees. As we all know, Mass 111 Pre-Calculus course is a gatekeeper course for STEM majors with a high percentage rate of a drop, withdrawal, and failure. We use in the mathematics department Math SAT and ACT scores, together with the Math ALEKS placement, to appropriately place students in the math classes. All students majoring in the School of Science and Mathematics or in STEM degrees at a College of Charleston required to take pre-calculus class unless they placed out of it by bringing a credit from the high school as AP credit or IB or dual enrollment. Students really struggling while taking this course, many will have to retake it several times until they pass it, or actually quit and change the major by walking away from a STEM degree. To help students with a college transition and passing the gatekeeper course, SCAM program for minority students starts with a summer bridge program that provides smooth transition of selected high school URM students into college to pursue STEM degrees. All bridge participants are coming to the college during speedy consolidation and transition spectra program that starts in the summer too, and are enrolled in pre-calculus class and mandatory pre-calculus lab. Many minority students are coming from low-income families and or as a first-generation students, and many were not able to afford tutoring during high school years. So throughout my teaching, I noticed that minority students are not likely to come to the professor's office hours and not likely to visit advisors when they ask to. I also noticed that if students actually do make the professor's office hours for help, they do much better in the course. So in pre-calculus mandatory lab, students receive all the help that is necessary. Because it is mandatory, they have to attend. To be successful, including individual tutoring, practice extra problems, and reviewing for the upcoming exams. In those pre-calculus classes and mandatory pre-calculus lab, we use learner-centered approach, collaborative and team-based learning sessions, together with a project-based learning and peer mentoring that generally exhibit high academic achievement, greater persistence through graduation, better high-level reasoning skills, and higher self-esteem, and that makes that STEM program successful. After completing pre-calculus course, SCAMP students are enrolled into STEM SCAMP learning community that is required as a first-year experience. That learning community connects Biology 111, Introductory to Cell Molecular Biology, and Calculus, Introductory Calculus class. And the theme of that learning community is viral biology. Students study to model Zika virus and Ebola virus, and that prepares them for undergraduate research projects. So starting from sophomore year, many SCAMP students do undergraduate research. Over the past 3 years, SCAMP program grew over 50%, and an average of 20 students who participate in academic or summer undergraduate research each year. Research, internship, graduate school visits, conference attendance, tutorial, and other academic and financial social components as the building blocks that is needed to facilitate the timely progression of undergraduate represented minority students towards the undergraduate STEM degrees. As it was mentioned, SCAMP is initiative of National Science Foundation and supported at the College of Charleston by School of Science and Mathematics, together with supported by Multicultural Student Program and Services. And I have a short video with SCAMP researchers. It's like 2.5 minutes that you can watch.
Purpose of my research project was just to find quaternary and value solutions for the KBB equation.
To make non-invasive imaging material through polymer chemistry.
We formed the chronological list of storms that impacted the areas of Charleston, South Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, and Savannah, Georgia, from a time period of 1851 to 2017. We kind of brought things full circle for me because I always wanted to be a meteorologist. So being able to do research on hurricanes that affected our areas really cool.
The purpose of my research project is to understand the relationship between light and a plant's growth and development by investigating how plants with disabled light-sensing genes respond to stress in their environment.
I used to work in CERNLs, which is Cyber Infrastructure Research Development for Lab of Earth Sciences. The point of that lab was to look at the age of the Earth and how we as people are affecting the Earth.
For me, the biggest thing was the sense of accomplishment when I actually finished the research project and I wrote out the proof to bear. That was probably the proudest moment of my life so far.
My experience in the lab has been beneficial because one, it just gives me like a little confidence of like, oh, this is what I've done and I'm proud and I can carry it over. But it also gives me more confidence to join another lab.
This program has been very beneficial for my life.
It really helps to ground my ability to like, speak to people, to feel authoritative in the research that I've done and my understanding of it. The SCAMP program has been very instrumental in finding mentors. So past students, they have helped me through the medical school application cycle over the summer. They're just great to look up to. I can see myself in their shoes in a couple of years.
The SCAN program has provided me with a platform to do research and then be able to present it at the SCAN undergraduate banquet.
The stipends help, especially when we have to start paying school money at certain times. SCAMP has really helped me a lot in connecting me with faculty and giving me research experience. Also connecting me with other minority students in STEM and allowing us to share our experiences with them. Having that community has been very beneficial to me because it's the reason I'm doing research at all.
We got this sense that not just to keep our heads down in our textbooks and learn our respective fields, but to be able to share that with people.
I'm very glad I'm part of the program. It's been very beneficial for me.
We'll hand that microphone down.
Just building off of what Professor Gress said, I'm a part of the SCAMP program here at the college. I actually joined last year. And prior to joining SCAMP, I was one of those students who had a hard time reaching out to professors or going to professors in their office hours and so and so. And whenever I met Professor Gress, she just kind of pushed me to make sure that I do go see these professors and stay in their ear and constantly ask them for help or whatever I needed. And now that I'm able to do that, it's just, I found it as almost like an outlet, and it just allows me to go to these professors with no fear. And now, like with my research project, I had a hard time finding professors to back me up and be my advisors for my project. But through the SCAMP program, I was able to find an advisor for my project, and it's just opened up countless and numerous doors for me. And it's just led me to many different opportunities in research, and it's also helped me influence how I want to go about my career and my career in medicine and in research.
So hi, my name's Misty Antonaci. As I said, I'm a senior here at the college. My major is math, and I'm minoring in women's and gender studies. So in my time here, I've had the opportunity to do some research, and my area of focus has been on women in STEM and the ways that we can support them and increase their participation in science and math. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the research I've done and what I've found can help to get women more involved in STEM fields. So just some background data. So I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but so women make up about 50% of the workforce in this country. but in STEM related jobs, women make up only about 24% of the workforce. So obviously there's a disparity there. So we want to see where this comes from, where this starts, and it actually starts fairly early. So if you go to an elementary school and you ask the students there, who's interested in math and science, of the students who raise their hand, it's going to be about 50-50 of girls and boys who say that they're interested in science and math. But as they start to grow older, girls will start to fall out of STEM and lose interest, and eventually we end up with that 24% of women in STEM workforce. So this phenomenon is called the leaky pipeline. So along each step of the way, women leak out of this pipeline into STEM, and we lose some women on the way. So it's important to look at the reasons that this happens, because it's kind of loops and feeds on itself. And there's really two main factors to contribute to it, which is recruitment and retention. So when you're looking at recruitment, the question you want to ask yourself is, how do you get those girls who in elementary school said that they're interested in science and math, and get them to get involved, stay on, maybe go into an advanced placement class in high school, and then choose to major in it, and then eventually get a job in the workforce. And a lot of this comes down to just stereotypes and what students assume about science and math fields. And it might not be overt, but in general, students will tend to think math and science are for boys, I'm a girl, so I can't do that. I mean, when you think of a scientist, the first thing you think of is usually a guy. So this kind of prevents some girls from going farther than that they might be interested in. So they might choose not to take an advanced class in high school because none of their friends are doing it, or they might not be cool if they do it. And then that affects them as they go into college, so they might not decide to major in a subject that they're kind of interested in because they don't have a background. So it feeds on itself. So then some of the ways to combat this would be role models. So that's a really big factor in this. So showing women examples of other women succeeding in STEM. So a really good example of this is a few years ago the movie Hidden Figures came out. And that was really good. It told the story of Katherine Johnson, who was a scientist at NASA, a mathematician at NASA. And it showed young girls and young black students that they can be successful in STEM, because look at this woman who was successful in it. If she can do it, so can you. So that really helps with getting students involved, getting women to take that next step and go into the STEM fields. So then the next problem comes, once you get women over that initial barrier, is how do you keep them in the program and how do you retain them? Role models still play a role in this. It's always important to be able to see people succeeding who look like you. But there's a couple other factors as well. Ratios in the classroom are important. If you only have, say, 1 or 2 women in a class of 25 people, we get into tokenism and stereotype, which we talked about before, stereotype threat, where the women will be worried that if they fail or if they do poorly in the class, that reflects poorly on all women because they're the only ones they're representing their gender. And even if the men in that class said, oh no, like we know that if this one woman does poorly, that doesn't reflect poorly on all women, we understand that. Just the thought that a woman might reflect poorly on her whole gender can add so much pressure and weight that it can add that extra layer of stress and worry and make her maybe decide to, if she starts doing poorly, decide to leave because she doesn't want to be that stereotype. Another factor is peer networks in the classroom. So there's a kind of idea with STEM that it's very icy and cold, and people work alone, you do your work independently, and there's not a lot of interaction between students and if you're in workforce and your coworkers. And women in general are socialized and expected through social norms to be a little bit more collaborative, open, friendly, and of course not all women are like this, but it's kind of the way society expects women to behave. So then when women enter into a STEM field and it's closed off and icy and cold to them, it can be really harmful to them, and they might not reach out if they need support, they might not identify as much with the major, so they might be less likely to call themselves a mathematician or an astronomer, and they don't identify with it as much, and so it's easier for them to make decisions to switch out of STEM and to leak out of pipeline there. So it's super important to foster these supportive peer networks in STEM majors. I know I can personally attest to this. I was taking a Calc 3 course, which is a difficult math course. I was struggling in it, and I was stressed. I was thinking about withdrawing, and I started a study group with 4 girls who were in my class. We didn't mean for it to all be women, it just happened that way. But we would meet on the weekends, we'd study together, and they helped me learn the material, they helped me pass the class, and ultimately helped me become more confident in my math skills. And that if I had jumped in that course, I probably would have changed my major and I wouldn't be a math major anymore. So it's really important to have those peer networks to support each other and interact with each other in the classroom. So my focus has mostly been on women, but this kind of carries over a lot to minorities as well like and other marginalized groups. No matter who you are, it's always important to be able to look around and see people who look like you and know that you can be successful in whatever you're trying to do, no matter your gender, ethnicity, sexuality, whatever. You need to have that representation to see that you can be successful in it. So that's why it's so important to diversify the STEM fields. Got it?
Hello, my name is Lara Bergsbank, and I'm very happy that I'm giving my speech after Misty because mine is pretty related to what she is just talking about. So as was mentioned before, I'm studying computer science here at the College of Charleston, and I decided to study computer science primarily because of an early interest that I had in math. And I always loved math through middle school and high school. And I didn't want to pursue it in college because I thought it'd be too abstract. And computer science seemed like that perfect application-based extension that would use that logical part of my brain but be a little less abstract. And I also liked the idea of going into a field with so much potential and so much influence. So almost all fields, as we know, use programming to some degree. And there are always so many jobs requiring skills and knowledge in technology and in programming. And the number of these jobs just keeps growing every year, or the number of these jobs, I mean. But despite this, research shows that computer science is one of the least female populated of any STEM field. According to the National Science Foundation, in 2015, only 24% of all people employed in computer science were women. And this compares to 43% in math, 53% in biology, and 32% in chemistry. And the only STEM field, the only major STEM field that has fewer women than computer science is engineering. And if you look at the disciplines in engineering, the discipline with the fewest women is computer engineering. And that's with 7% being female. And this pattern can be seen in all degrees of higher education and even in secondary education if you look at the number of girls who are taking the AP Computer Science exam. And on top of this, the number of women in computer science has been decreasing. In 2001, women made up 39% of all earners of science bachelor's degrees. So in 2001, 39% of all science degrees. And then in 2015, from 2001 to 2015, that percentage, that 39%, remained pretty constant and pretty much the same. However, the percentage of women earning degrees in computer science decreased from 28% down to 18%. So from 2001 to 2015, the number of women getting their degrees in computer science decreased by 10%, while all science fields pretty much remained constant. And this shows that there is fundamentally something wrong with computer science and the technological field that's keeping girls and women away. And this problem, despite a lot of efforts to create stronger communities of women in technology, doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. So currently I'm working on 2 major research projects as part of the Honors College here. One is examining the reasons why there are so few women in computer science. And my research has brought me down to a few key root influences. And these are influences that I see every day and I've seen all throughout my life. First is our perception of computer science and what technology is from a societal standpoint. If we think about computer-type people or like techie people, we tend to think about white males who are maybe nerdy, play a lot of video games, maybe, or we could think about Silicon Valley, San Francisco, kind of tech bro kind of guys. And when we think about people who are successful in technology, we think about people like Bill Gates, or Tim Cook, or Steve Jobs, or Elon Musk, and we don't really think about successful women, and even more rarely do we think about successful women of color. And this view is remaining largely unquestioned, is continuously reinforcing this perceived masculinity of technology. And as technology becomes more prominent and more powerful in our society, it's only becoming more and more masculine. The other influence I'm going to discuss is how we teach computer science, and this actually kind of ties into my second research project, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So early formal education in computer science has definitely been lacking, especially compared to math and science and non-STEM education courses. Students generally don't learn to program in elementary or middle or high school, and if there are programming classes available, generally they're going to be electives, so it requires an initial interest in technology and in computer science in order for that student to sign up for the class. In higher education, introductory computer science classes tend to cater more towards people who have previous experience and knowledge in computer science, which in turn caters more to males who early on felt more comfortable pursuing programming as a hobby due to the already present masculine perception of technology. Research finds that women are more likely to discover computer science compared to men through a different field like math. So a lot of women in computer science who are currently, who decided to major in computer science did so through something like math, like I did. So for those women who don't already have an experience and a background in computer science, when they take those introductory courses, which as Misty mentioned can be kind of cold at first and that they may not be used to, they would have less experience, they'll feel further behind in the class, and eventually, as she mentioned, probably change majors. I personally didn't have any programming experience when I started here at the College of Charleston, and my first programming class only had about 2 or 3 girls out of about 30 people, which is a terrible ratio. Most of the men who were in that class already knew programming, so they were telling me concepts that we wouldn't learn until a few more chapters, and I always felt really behind. And even though I had a great professor, I always felt like I was fighting this uphill battle to even compete with my classmates and succeed. And this was repeated in all of the computer science classes that I would take. I would only be 1 out of 2 or 3 girls, sometimes I'd be the only girl, and all my classmates would have more experience, and professors would skip through topics because they assumed everyone knew the information already, and I'd be left behind. And I'd assume other students could be left behind because they didn't already have that, that background, but we still never got caught up. And I believe tackling the problem with computer science education is a lot easier than reworking societal perception of technology. So primarily I believe that higher education classes need to be reformed to cater more towards people who have less experience in computer science, and for it to be assumed less that people have as much experience as the majority of people in computer science. Also, mandatory computer science classes early on in middle and high school would be very important, along with providing resources for middle and high schools that don't already have the resources to offer those computer science classes. And in doing that, you would expose these students to technology and have them better be prepared for computer science as a major in college, perhaps. And in turn, this would increase the number of women in technology, which could break down that masculine perception and that masculine environment in the technological field. In my other research project, as I keep mentioning, it involves finding ways to introduce computer science early in the classroom in ways that are application-based and gender-neutral. So currently we're experimenting with using robots in science and math classes so that boys and girls will all have that equal exposure to computer science through their math and science class, science classes. So of course this is only one possible solution out of so many solutions, and I only mentioned 2 major influences out of so many possible influences that could be addressed. I believe that conversations like the conversations that we're having today are really important because they're encouraging finding those solutions to these issues and other issues pertaining to diversity in STEM fields. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Alright, y'all. My name's Denzel Wright, and I grew up on Edison, like Todd mentioned. And growing up there, it's kind of like a really quiet town. There's not a lot happening there, and so my childhood really allowed me to become an innovative person. And so I kind of, as I got older and like thought about college and what I wanted to do, architecture, marine bio, and teaching were kind of like on my list of things that, you know, I considered as like career options. And mainly because, you know, I spent a lot of time in the marshes and stuff like that as a kid growing up, you know, trying to, you know, fishing and crabbing and all that stuff with my family. But I also like had a really wild imagination, and so that allowed me to, you know, like just do little sketches every now and then of, you know, things that I kind of just liked or like wanted to just find ways to express myself, I would do those sketches just for fun. I ended up coming to the College of Charleston, so my architectural interest kind of faded away since that wasn't really a program that they had it here. And marine bio was something that I decided to study instead. And so I took, my biology classes later on my freshman year, and those were great, and I loved it. And my calculus class as well, they taught me a lot that semester about, things that I could achieve here at the college. I never really imagined going into STEM because I just felt overwhelmed by how there was kind of like a stereotype around, like, if you're going to be a scientist or a mathematician, you need to be super smart to do all that stuff. And I wasn't really confident in, myself educationally. So I then got an internship that following summer after my freshman year with the Audubon Society. And so I worked around the Low Country with a lot of different organizations who kind of have their focuses around environmental and conservation efforts. And it was a really great internship. I learned a lot that summer, and I worked with a lot of different people and made lots of different connections. And, again, that just contributed to, my confidence in going into STEM. And then that following semester is when things kind of got rough. I took my introductory calculus class, and I was taking bio, Spanish, and then chemistry as well. And the chemistry class is what really turned me around because I didn't really have a strong chemistry background, and so I always felt like I was kind of behind with the rest of the students who were in that class and what they knew, and I just didn't feel like I could keep up as well. And so I went to all of the SI sessions that they had, and I went to the office hours, and the labs were pretty good at helping me understand things because I had like the hands-on experience with them. But in lecture, it was just still concepts that I couldn't really grasp, and it started stressing me out, and I didn't really know what to do. I talked to my professor, and we found it best that I just drop the class and try again another semester. And so after dropping that class, I did a lot of reevaluation on why I wanted to do marine bio and if it was something that I really, really wanted to dedicate all of my time and efforts to. And it just didn't seem like something that I kind of prioritized, and so I ended up dropping the major, and I shifted more towards the humanities and arts majors, and so that's why I took on urban studies and studio art. And I still feel like there's going to be some challenges within what I want to do now, but I eventually want to go off to grad school to get my master's in architecture. And so, again, I just think that within the STEM field, I think a lot of students who kind of share similar backgrounds to me, who didn't have a strong high school education or just things that didn't prepare them as well for STEM fields, it can be a little tough to kind of find the motivation to go off and continue and fight through it when you don't really see a lot of people that look like you in those areas. It's kind of like, okay, well, maybe I should just, walk away from it and just leave that to someone else to, fight for and go forward. And but here at the college, I think they do a really good job at just they offer a lot of different resources for our students, especially our minority students, to find that motivation and keeping them going. And that's something that I kind of wish that I took more advantage of, but I didn't. And like I said, I kind of changed paths completely, but again, I still feel like there's a lot of resources out there for our minority students to again progress in those fields and be successful in them.
Hi,
Hi, my name is Kati. I'm from Florence, South Carolina, and I'm studying bio and environmental sustainability studies to become a veterinarian. My love for animals has always been there, but the idea of becoming a veterinarian never occurred to me until the summer before I started college, and Grimmage, who works with the Multicultural Center, actually came to our school and motivated me to major in biology to become a veterinarian. During high school, everyone just urged me to be like a dog breeder or a dog walker, or or maybe own a pet daycare, but never a veterinarian. So I came to College of Charleston for that very reason, that he was the only one who kind of pushed me to go into STEM fields. When I got here, it was a surprise because I went to a predominantly black high school, middle school, and elementary school, and the ratios were like, I don't know the ratio, but it wasn't that great. And so I've noticed that people of color tend to stick together in those classes. That's how I met some of my closest friends, like Yemi. We started our freshman year together in a biology class, and we've been friends ever since. And then what I've noticed is that there, in predominantly black high schools, there's just no support. They put like a lot of white males and females as educators, but they don't really know where the students are coming from, so they can't bond with the students. They just simply stand at their front and teach the lesson. Also would have helped as like mandatory workshops after school. I felt like would have been a great addition to a lot of high schools that I know that they had at the predominantly white high schools in my town, but they did not have it at my high school. And more outreach from colleges like College of Charleston and other STEM-related colleges to come to more of the predominantly black high schools to recruit more students. Basically it for me. Thank you.
Professor Hughes, wrap it up, and then Toy's going to respond for about 10 minutes, and then that gives us about 30 minutes of question and answers from you all to anybody.
Okay.